This is Richard Nikoley, freetheanimal.com, Anthony Colpo, anthonycolpo.substack.com.
That's it.
There's also substack.com/@AnthonyColpo, I believe. So you can try both of them. I found that out after we talked the last time. Okay, so we did a previous video on low carb just to get everybody on one side or the other, because it's a divisive thing. So now we'll tackle Thailand here. Anthony, you've been here for how long now?
Just over 5 weeks.
Just over 5 weeks. And okay, let's do it this way. So you spent a few days in Bangkok before you got down here to
5 months
Pattaya.
in Bangkok.
Yeah, so what was your initial, like, when you got here?
I'm not normally a huge fan of big cities.
Yeah.
I love Bangkok. It's massive. It's busy. In fact, busy is not the word. It's hectic. But just it's got this vibrant feel about it, this energy that I just took to immediately.
It's like 24/7 energy too, isn't it?
Totally. And you walk along and there'll be like all these grungy sort of building shops, and then there'll just be this 6-7 story shopping mall that just is uber modern, puts all the shopping malls in Australia and the US to shame. Then a few more grungy shops, and then a couple of weed places that are really, nicely.
Well, that's an interesting point, because in our countries, I suppose an exception would be a lot of Western Europe, because they have so many historical buildings and all. But in relatively newer countries like Australia, like America, they have this zoning. So you either end up with slums, or everything is like corporate cookie cutter, right?
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
go right, and
it
here
just has this artificial feel about it.
It has an artificial feel. This is like organic, right?
It's just everything's thrown in
You've got
there.
your beautiful tree or flower, and then you've got some weeds here and there. Yeah,
exactly.
Right? So.
And it's cool. It works.
Yeah.
It's just
How about food?
Love the food.
You like spicy?
I like spicy.
Mm-hmm.
I like cheap.
Yeah, you like cheap.
It's cheap here.
Yeah.
No, the food here is great.
There are expats who've done challenges, like 100 baht a day challenge. They do like 30 days, and they film everything they eat, and they eat Thai food. They go to the stalls and the little shops, the same place as Thais eat, right? And they eat good. They film everything. They eat pretty darn good for 100 baht a day, which is roughly $3 US, right?
I reckon training 5 days a week might be pushing to.
Yeah, if you have heightened protein requirements because of gym
but
or
it is cheap.
training,
I mean, you can go out and get a good restaurant dinner for what, $10-12.
Well, I always tell people that here you can live like a normal person 5 to 10 times less than in the West, depending on what your average lifestyle is. So if you're really a penny pincher, you can live 10 times as cheap. If not so much average, you're at least going to be 3 or 5 times cheaper.
Food's cheaper here. Rent is a hell of a lot cheaper. The only thing, imported stuff. So if you come here and think you're going to buy Adidas and Nike and Under Armour and all your big brands dirt cheap, that's not going to happen. It's just as expensive as back home.
Yeah.
And the other thing that disappoints me a little, things like, your small goods or your sort of Italian small goods and cheeses, they're a luxury here. They're quite expensive here.
Thais are not so much into cheese, so it's hard. So you can get the cheese, but you pay
for it.
You pay more than you would pay at home, right? Because it's shipped over, because they don't have any facilities that make it here. On the other hand, Thai pork is some of the best in the world.
Pork and chicken, it's good, and it's like $4 a kilo. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
It's just
You're talking Australian dollars or US dollars?
I'm talking Australian dollars.
I didn't realize that there was such a difference between Australian and US exchange rate. So I think you're at 20 to the baht, and we're at about 35 to the baht.
At the moment, 100 baht is around $4 Australian.
Right. Yeah, so it's about $3 US.
So when you go to the shop and you get chicken breast for 75 baht, it's what, $3? It's not even $4 a kilo.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy cheap.
It's pretty good.
So it's yeah, I guess, if you ask me my impressions of Thailand, so far so good. I really like it. I love the people.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because we used line to communicate, because that's what's used throughout Thailand, pretty much LINE, line. I think one of the first messages you got after you'd landed in Bangkok to me was that you were really positive about the friendliness of the Thai people. That's
the thing that struck me immediately is it's a culture of respect. Unlike the West, it's a culture of disrespect. In the West, being an obnoxious aggro, people seem to think that you've got to be intimidating and aggressive to get your way. Here, that's poor form. It's when people bow when they greet you in shops and hotels, it's quite.
And while it is a habit, sort of like you say, please and thank you. You just do it automatically, typically. So that's the same thing, though. I think it's called a law. The thing like that. It's done reflexively, automatically. But the thing is, it sets the stage of politeness right off the bat, right? So even if a person walks in front of you, like through your field of vision, you will often see them. They'll excuse them. Like we would say, "Oh, excuse me." Same thing. That's what they're doing, right?
I mean, not everyone here is a nice person. I have had instances of poor customer service, but overall, it's a very respectful, very polite culture, and that's really good. And even things like, when you walk down the street, like when you walk down, say, Beach Road there, and the footpaths are pretty narrow. Through that section where Central Pattaya is, the footpaths are a bit. You're walking one way, people are walking the other. In Australia, and I had this in Mexico as well. Two guys are walking towards each other, and invariably with that one guy that doesn't want to. That sort of macho. You just don't get that here. It's just people move, and everyone is courteous and cooperative, and that's what I really like about the place.
All right, so then you get to Pattaya. I thought I need these stuff from the market, so I went to the market, and he's like, "Hey," and we were in the gym in like an hour or two. It took him to Muscle Factory, and so and we've gone through probably at least 25, I think 5 weeks of workouts, 25 workouts or so. So 5 days a week.
Solid month and a bit.
Every day.
At least 20 workouts.
And at first we were going down on the motorcycle, and then I think you had the idea, well, let's just walk it.
Let's walk it.
So it's 2.5 kilometers to the gym. It's 2.5 kilometers back, but there's this hill right up here. You don't see it right up here. It's, I'd say, 200 meters elevation, maybe 150. And so we take a detour and walk up there, back on the. So it's about 2.5. This is about 5.5 kilometers with that ascent.
But it's a steep gradient.
It's a steep gradient, and we walked that. So that's been really beneficial. So you get to Pattaya and you start looking around. What's the sore thumb that you see?
The first time I went down Beach Road, all I saw was Western dudes. There's more Western guys and guys than there are Thais.
Asian Thais.
Yeah. And it's safe to say.
And what are they doing?
They're not here to study Buddhism, or they're not here for the architecture. I knew about the reputation before I got here, but just all the bars, the sheer number of bars. And I haven't been out at night. I haven't been to any of these places at night. The latest I've been down, I have been down Walking Street, but I think it was at 7 o'clock.
It's
the
not
time
even,
I told you about the guy. He wasn't supposed to go down there, but he did.
What we could do is after about an hour, we could. After 10 o'clock it gets good, so we could get you at least one trip. Walking Street, I don't know if you can see the green flashing laser. That's about 500 meters of pure sin. Right. Anyway, but what else did you saw all these Western guys, but what are they doing?
So you have guys that they're mostly middle-aged and up. You don't see a lot of young guys here. Western guys. It's mostly middle-aged guys and up. But what was a real eye-opener is seeing guys who are old. I'm talking like Joe Biden old, walking around with youngish Thai girls, and in some cases quite attractive. And it's just, that's an eye-opener. When you see a guy that's probably a year or two away from a walking frame with an attractive young Thai girl, yeah, that takes some getting used to.
That's it, you see it a lot. You see it not a lot, but it happens. But I guess what I find the more disturbing is a guy that doesn't take care of himself at all. You know, he sits and swills beer in a beer bar all day, and he doesn't have enough.
You see that. And,
yeah.
You
and
see
then,
them with.
And then the 20-something, 30-something girls. And that's kind of why I wrote that thing about the formula. Like at least look the part so she's not embarrassed. Because some of these end up long-term relationships. You hear that you and I have talked about this at length, that there's two sides of the thing. And I think all I've done over the last month is tell you some of the other sides of the story, because all you're going to get from the West is the one side of the story. You have any thoughts about that?
Well, I guess personally, I don't like prostitution. To me, sex is something that two people who supposedly like each other a lot, do. They get intimate. To me, it's not a commodity. I'm happy to pay for groceries and bike tires and clothes, but sex is not, to me, a service or a commodity. So I have a personal aversion to it. I used to be of the opinion that, look, it's between two consenting parties. It's not my cup of tea, but what they do, if it's consenting. And then I sort of became more aware of human trafficking, and that prostitution is a big, it creates a big demand for trafficking, cheap labour, child, pedophilia also fuels the trafficking market. But what I'm seeing here, like we've talked about that DW documentary.
The German one.
Yeah, and the sort of...
I'll link that in the description. Yeah, I did a post on that.
There was a good point that that was the one that featured a German guy who bribed his way out of Thailand. He had sex with an underage girl. I mean, a guy like that's a scumbag.
Yeah, he was.
Period. Yeah.
Because he knew he was doing that.
But they made the whole scene look like, it's exploitation. From what I'm seeing, it's mutual exploitation. Yeah. It's... A lot of these girls don't look like anyone's forcing them to. They seem quite eager.
And a lot of the guys, what the nickname for them is ATMs.
Yeah.
So.
And you've told me that sometimes it turns into a Pretty Woman type scenario where...
Pretty Woman, you're referring to the movie with Richard Gere and
Julia Roberts?
Julia Roberts,
So he rocks up in his Lotus.
And you were the one who pointed out, well, how come this sort of thing is so awful, and that sort of thing that happened there was such a wonderful thing?
I mean, to me, that Pretty Woman scenario is, it's not my...
It's not your thing, but...
Everyone watched it.
It was a very popular movie. It's so sweet, right? Yeah.
And then if they look at this, where a similar thing happens, in some cases.
Well, you met Far. She fixed us that dinner when we went to... she's one of the girls I see, but she's never worked in a bar. She's never done the freelance thing. She's here because her daughter is here, and her daughter has a job here and a Thai boyfriend, and they're going to Korea pretty soon and everything. So anyway, Anthony and I, she's a cook. She has a little restaurant. So we went over and had some food. Well, Far is back in her village in Mukdahan, which is up in the northeast, extreme northeast, almost near Laos. And she got on video phone with me the other day, and she's walking down her street, and she's pointing out, oh, that's a house, he's an old Swiss man and has a Thai wife. That's a German man, that's an English man, right on her own street. So that's what a lot happens, but people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that, but if you go out there into the provinces, you come across all of these neighborhoods where there's all of these, quote, sexpats, unquote, that are holding down a whole family.
Were they sexpats? Because there are instances where guys come here, they don't have anything to do with this. They do meet a nice Thai girl, Thai woman.
Yeah, sexpats is just a derogatory term. Expats, they're here because...
Some of the guys back in Australia have got Thai wives, and they didn't, to my knowledge, didn't come here and get involved in any of this. Probably another thing worth mentioning about Thai women back in Australia, it's mainly Western women that sort of push this belief that all Asian women are submissive, and you come here and you see them, they're all running businesses, they're entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Whether it's a shop or whether it's one of these little carts, food carts, they're hardworking, they're entrepreneurial.
Yes.
They are a big part of the Thai economy, from what I can see.
Yeah, you've dealt with a lot of them. Do they seem demure and submissive to you? No.
They're polite and courteous.
Polite. Yes.
They're not feral.
Nope.
You know, they're not covered in tats and flabby and, you know, ass hanging out. But they're not little demure weaklings, you know, sitting home hidden in the kitchen. They're obviously a big part of the Thai economy.
Yeah.
So, there's this myth that they're all submissive little. They're not.
Well,
they're,
another thing that it's good to point out, and this really is something it's been a frustration for me for a very long time, because in 1984, which is how long ago now? That's 40 years ago. I moved to Japan. I lived in Japan for 5 years. I had many Japanese girlfriends, and so I realized back then, I mean, like, what people think about Asian women, like sexually and everything, it's just none of it is even remotely true. It's a surface thing. I can understand how they have these impressions, but underneath, no, it's not. But the biggest thing is in terms of their sexuality, I guess you could say, or their morals, or their moral sexuality, what you have to realize is they never heard of Jesus Christ, and they don't give a fuck. You know, so everything that you know that's from Judeo-Christian ethics has never been part. Now, standard things of, you know, golden rule type stuff, do unto others, but they don't feel like the stupid guilt that Westerners feel about certain sexual things. It's like so indoctrinated at the core from the time you were a little baby, you know, to a little young one, and so everything is filtered through that indoctrination of, you know, original sin and, you know, shame and guilt, and so imagine people who don't feel that at all. They don't naturally feel it.
But here in Thailand, would you say there's this environment where, you know, obviously the girls are they're on board with, for a better word, promiscuity or free and easy. But then you've got the regular girls that, you know, no tattoos, nicely dressed.
Yeah, well, the thing is that typically the tattoos, that's kind of a recent phenomenon, and it applies a lot to the bar girls or former bar girls.
I saw very few women with tattoos in Bangkok.
Yeah, very few.
Very few.
Yeah,
I come here, every girl's got tats.
Yeah, sure, because there's a concentration of typically the bar girls. Now, the freelancers who use the dating apps mostly, they do and they don't, because some of them are also bar girls, and they do the dating apps. They do both, you know. But the one of the things that's interesting is that you have these different. It's kind of like these stratas or these classes, but everybody gets the same. There's some sort of minimum basis of respect. So, like, even out in the village, you know, everybody will know that girl, you know, goes to Pattaya, or she goes to the appropriate places in Bangkok or Phuket or even Chiang Mai sometimes during the year and makes some extra money, if you know what I mean, right? Is she looked down upon? No, not in the slightest. Everybody treats her just like anybody else. In fact, they'll explicitly say that's her work. She works. You know, right? It's a different kind of thing. Just like we were talking about, like if you talk to a Thai girl about why they broke up with I have this saying that every bar girl has the same story, which is, you know, they had a Thai husband or a Thai boyfriend. They had 1 or 2 children. He left, or she left him, and she left him because drink too much, gamble too much, spend too much time with his friends, or he butterfly too much. Now, you know what butterfly means. He cheats too much.
Not that he cheated too much.
Too much. They always say too much. In other words, they're more realists. They know that the guys are going to do it sometimes, right? But it's too much. And what they really don't like is when it embarrasses them. When it comes back to them, like it's a friend of a friend or something like that.
Saving face is really important.
Saving face.
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting thing you brought up, because the saving face culture is an Asian thing. But there's different applications of it. So, like in Japan, somehow they have shame and guilt associated with it. So because it's a yin and yang sort of thing. In Thailand, it's a problem. And I tell people this all the time. I say the problem with it, see, like for instance, defamation laws here are huge. People won't write like bad reviews for a restaurant or anything online. They can be sued. It can even go so far as to be criminal, right? Yeah, defamation, huge thing. I say the problem with that is if you can't expose somebody for doing bad to other people, then that's incentive, because it gives people like carte blanche to screw people over, right? Knowing that nobody's going to say anything, right? And it's happened. I tell you, it happens all the time. I see it all the time, right? And everybody's like conditioned to like, don't talk bad, don't talk bad, don't talk bad. You got to be very careful. I've had this happen to me a few times with women, where in the normal conversation, like I would be having here with Anthony or something like that, they'll be offended because of it's like bad talk. It's talking bad about people. They don't like it, and on some level, they actually find it scary.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you got to be is kind of like watch your toes there. But I say that it's something that's a problem here, because people screw people over like a lot. Like borrowing money and not returning it, and
well, that's
and
what I was
stuff
saying.
like
Not everyone's nice here.
Yeah.
You can be lulled into the the land of smiles thing.
It's like, well, we were talking. It's like, well, I would telling you about how I had these neighbors in Phuket for the first part of 2021. There's two Swiss guys that live like with 6 ladyboys, and they're both married to women, but they live with these ladyboys. So, I had this interaction with him, like cooking and and I told him, I said, at the end of the day, what you realize is that these are people, So that's one of these problems with the internet in general, is that we get all these assumptions about people, about what the way, the style they post online, or the things they talk about online, or whatever. It's the quintessential judging the book by its cover sort of thing, right? And the internet has put that into hyperdrive, where we think we know a person just by some things that they said, right? Yeah. So
you can't get a person's tonality. You can't see their facial expressions.
Yes.
When you talk to someone, I could literally tell you, get fucked. But
I wouldn't.
come on,
well,
just
like,
fuck out of
just
here.
like it, just like
I'm not literally
just
telling
like
you
at the gym,
remove yourself
just
from
like
my
at the
presence.
gym. After I finish my workout and I'm heading out, you're like, Tabata. We don't forget the Tabata squats, and I turn around and say, fuck off.
Whereas you write that online.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
just telling you F off. How dare you?
Yeah.
So you can't. All those subtleties of communication, because a lot of communication is just voice, tonality, body posture, and facial expression. None of that comes across online. Not when you're writing an article, at least anyway. Maybe when you're making a video, that comes across to an extent. But so it's easy to get the wrong impression, the wrong picture.
Now, are you going to wait to write this on your blog, or what are your plans now? Do you want to reveal that here?
I'm heading north, where the mountains are.
Yeah.
I'm a cyclist, a climbing cyclist, so wherever there's mountains.
So he only came to Pattaya because I hooked him up with an agent to get his retirement visa. That was yes, and she's great. Brilliant. She's brilliant, right?
She made the whole thing.
I hooked her up with Anthony, and he couldn't be happier. And it takes a month, so he got a room in the same condo complex for that month, and so that's done now. And so you're headed out the day after tomorrow to Chiang Mai. Yep, and that's because he's got his carbon fiber.
My traveling companion.
His bike with him.
Yeah.
I can't believe you took 2 of those to Mexico.
Yeah, I won't be doing that again.
Yeah.
Not Mexico with 2 bikes at once.
I carried that one, even though it's not heavy. It's awkward.
When you got 2 of them.
Yeah.
Especially in a place like Mexico.
Yeah.
But I won't do that again. 2 bikes at once. And I pretty much went around the world that trip. So when I head back to Australia in several months, I might grab my gravel bike, bring that back, do some off-roading, because I'll be here for a while. So Yeah, so
So
off
are
to
you-
Chiang Mai, the highest part of Thailand.
Highest part of Thailand, and it's got
Some steep, nasty climbs, I hear.
some steep, nasty climbs, and it's got good coffee.
Good coffee.
Anthony
That's
is a
important.
diehard coffee lover.
You bet.
And so that's going to be quite an adventure. And so, what do you think? So you overall think that this was an excellent move for this point in your life?
Yeah, look, I have to preface when you say, what do you think of Thailand, do you like it, this and that, I have to preface that by saying I've been here 5 weeks and I've only been in 2 cities,
Yeah.
Bangkok and Pattaya. To put that in context, when I went to Spain, within 4 weeks I'd stayed in 5 towns and cities.
Mhm.
So I saw quite a bit of Spain in only 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Gained a very favourable impression. So far, like what I've seen, Pattaya is where I've spent most of my time. It's not my cup of tea. Hanging around with you has been awesome. The gym has been fun.
Yeah.
Our daily hikes up the top of the hill there.
Yeah.
With the
They're almost
coffee.
they're almost boring. I can tell you that in political and social and economic and I would cultural issue, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to find something to disagree about.
Yeah.
Really, we
You
both
don't like Tabata
we,
spots, so-
we both basically think the world's fucked up. And
Heading in the wrong direction. that's
heading
for
in the
sure.
wrong direction. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, getting back to your question, I'm happy to have made the move. It's an adventure. I think the people make this place.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you drive around, when I went to Mexico, I thought, what a dump. You look around, all the infrastructure's, it's a mess. You think, wow, I went to Tijuana in the 80s and 90s. You do those day trips across the border
Uh-huh.
to go shopping in Tijuana. And when I went there in 2022, I thought, it doesn't look that much different from what Tijuana did 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Have you guys made any progress at all?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, you come here and it's like there's a lot of shabby looking buildings and
But you
infrastructure
see,
here.
it's kind of a stepwise thing. There's parts of it that are going like this, and parts going,
But, you got your infusion of sort of ultra modern, like you've got Central Pattaya and Terminal 21, and they're nuts.
They're
Those shopping centres
fantastic.
are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Super modern. Yeah, you go into Terminal 21, there's a huge Eiffel Tower, like
Yeah.
a replica Eiffel Tower that
Yeah.
goes almost to the top of the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah, they have that one escalator that does like 5 floors straight, so you can it's like an express escalator, up to the thing. Yeah.
Even when you're in the areas that are a bit shabby, it's just, I don't know, it's a different feeling. There's still some sort of energy
Oh yeah,
here,
go
like a vibe that...
go to some of the fishing villages and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like going back into the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Really, because there's a certain kind of people that you see them down in the south, like in Phuket. There's a lot of them. They're basically island people. They hop
Yeah.
around from island to island. They
like
set,
they've been doing for decades.
for centuries. So there's that, and I guess anything else to add to the discussion?
Well, I guess I'll be here for a while, so keep people updated. Yeah, we'll catch up. You can come up
Yeah.
to Chiang Mai, and
Yeah,
I'll be back down here at some
I'm
point.
certainly
probably
not
see
going to go.
Fon or whatever.
I'm certainly not going to go up there to see the ex-girlfriend, because that's what she, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I can come up to hang around with you and catch some Chiang Mai again. All right.